I can see myself, but
It's good. It's going.
it's going. Okay. Okay. Well, after being here for a little bit, I have walked. I have to stay. They're mine. Excuse me. Okay. What I've realized is that after this year and having the freedom to walk around and see what you do a little bit better, some of you are just doing a fabulous job. I am just thrilled when I see you doing something. And it's been a great thing. I mean, since the beginning of the year, I've seen you do many different things, and some of you come to me and talk to me about adding different aspects to your classes and things that you can do, and I'm thrilled to see those things. And so don't take, when I talk to you about adding things to your repertoire of teaching, don't think that I'm saying that you're not doing a good job, because you are. You're doing a very good job. I just want to think about getting outside of the boat a little bit more, and for those of us that aren't doing anything, any activities or things in your classes, to kind of nudge you in that direction. Okay, one of the things that I tried, if you all read this while Marae was doing her talk announcements, I apologize. And those of you that were with me, I was going to use the same slide on how we learn, and it talks about a lot. I have done a lot of research, a lot of reading. I joined an online library and have done a lot of research on how to help all children, and not just the learning difference kids. But statistics show that action learning is where we need to be. And we've talked about this some in the past. If you are only having a student read something, they're only going to retain 10% of that. I mean, have them read, but realize that's not the only way to get information into their heads. So if they read, or if they hear you speak or hear you read, they retain 20%. If you give them a visual, okay, and if you're going to throw up a picture of something, then that increases it another 10%, so they remember 30% of what you've talked about. Then if they watch something that's moving, a video, or if you're rampant in the room and they're watching you walk around, I guess, that would be 40%. If you watch a demonstration, especially in math, they're going to remember 50% of what you have shown. And then if they teach the activity, if they report simple as pair sharing desk partner, it goes 70% of what they've had to process to say to someone else. And then if they are part of an action activity, they remember 90% have done. To remember 100%, they have to participate in all of these things before they retain the information. And I don't know about you, but I've had myself full of just giving lists to kids, having them, because it doesn't work. If you've watched kids memorize in the grade school, masters at memorization. They can memorize a Bible verse in 3 to 5 minutes, walk in and say it to the Bible teacher, and walk out and still can't say it. And they'll get 100. They are masters. Our kids somebody's talking about Pavlov's dog the other day, but I think in a lot of times that's what we're doing, is we are just training them to do these things. They're never really truly learning. Does that make sense? Are you with me on that? Okay, so I came up with another slide that I had her print off, and I apologize for its quality. I hope I'll pass those out to you. This one talks about how people learn, and it's going to talk about people generally remember learning activities, and it gives you a breakdown of what they remember. No, it's not. We had to turn it off. The Wi-Fi, and that's why we were messing ago, and it's too slow because we're running from Maru. Okay, so they're going to remember 10% of what they read. That's what we talked about. We talked about 20% of what they hear. and so forth. So this is your copy. If you can read it, it didn't print very well. At least it's in color. So if you notice there, they're giving you more details about participating in hands-on workshops, demonstrations, exhibits, talking about simulating, modeling, and experience, just to design themselves and to present. If they do the real thing, that's the analyze, define, create, evaluate stage. They're going to get it a lot better. So one of the things I wanted us to discuss today was projects, okay? I want to make sure that we're kind of all on the same page on projects. We've seen wonderful pieces. We've seen kids go and do just wonderful things. Marilyn showed us some last year. For those of you that hadn't seen it, go through her room. There is a memorial to projects in there. And they do a fabulous job. But when we assign a project, it needs to be clarified, especially for panicking mothers, what you really, really want them to do. If it's a simple poster, you know, just say whatever those simple things are, the rubric that you're going to grade it on. And you need to put that in print, because 9 out of 10 of them, I don't care if they're my kids or not, they're not going to remember it. At least put what you're going to grade it on the board. The best way is to go ahead and give them a copy of the rubric. Go ahead and show them exactly what their grade is going to be based upon. And share that with your department. Patty, share it with your history teachers, and other than David, he's here. But make sure that if we're making those assignments, that there's no mystery to what 100 is, okay? And I know it's easy sometimes for us to make a call real at the last minute and fly that out there, and you know, we've not really thought about it. So we need to think it through. Make sure we're accountable to that. Remember, we're seeking an excellent education for our children, and what that means is that excellence begins with us. And so we want to do those things. Okay, the other thing, how many of you, when you're in that lecture talk phase, do any of you use graphic organizers and still doing things off your overheads as far as organizing material that they're taking notes from? Okay, how are you lecturing? If you're only talking like I am now, then they're only going to remember 20%. So you need to get that in your head, 20%. If I could have put up a picture on the screen and talked about it, I've increased it to what, 30 or 40%? Okay? But then you need to stop and have them do something. And so graphic organizers are really good little tools that you can use. There's tons of those traditional ones. How many of you have ever used a graphic organizer in your classes down historically? Okay. You don't have to go back to those. There are tons of things that you can do online. There's tons of ways that you can do it. If you have an iPad, there's an app called, I think it's Inspiration. It will build these for you. And you can put this information in there, and then you can run the copies and hand it to them. Have them glue it in something, or have them hole punch and put it in something. So you should be using that. That makes it organized. I know this looks like organized chaos, but there is an organization to it. There's a way that it needs to be done. Is it better for them to build it themselves? Yes. Yeah. And so what I would suggest is you build the one where you want to take them to. So you've got the structure of the bubbles, and then you give them this blank, and then you discuss, and then, you know, come up with to lead them to the conclusion of what goes in the bubbles. Or if you're going to do a T-chart, you lead them through what they're going to do. These are for some that I ran that have to do with the 5 W's. Who, what, when, where, how, and why. And then this is the one for time period for history. This is an issue analysis. If you've got 2 sides of an issue, the pro and con, and you're welcome to take these, and you're welcome to come and build them on my iPad. I don't care. And then this is a time period one for history. Here is a chain of events for sequence charts, historical events. There's all kinds of this. I've even ran off for biographies. character analysis for English, understanding satire. Well, if you want them, I hate to just run them and them just go in the trash can. Here's a plot analysis. Do y'all want copies? Okay, I'll just send them to the office. And then the history and the English are in here together. Okay. Math, as far as any type of graphical thing, if you can come up with just a sequence chart, number 1, this is the first step, number 2, this is the second step, 3, this is the third step. And you can build those, but kids have to know 1, 2, 3, 4 order. They get lost in us teaching off of the board because we're talking and we're into the problem and they're going, where'd you get that? How did, why, you know. And so they're sitting back there. They may not be saying those things, but they're lost and confused. And so we need to break it down as simple as we can and by putting it in sequential order. Okay. The next thing I wanted to give you, I found this just the other night, and I was going to recreate it, and I haven't had the chance to. This is a chart about using what to ask yourself when you're coming up with a graphic organizer. And the types, you know, there's different types. You've got the cycle kind. There's tons of those for science that are out there. The cycle of whatever is happening, you know, and whatever you're teaching at that time. There's all kinds of different things. Just go online and research. Just type in, you know, graphic organizer, and the world is full of them. And so I know this sounds kind of sort of really public school because we started trying to do it like 10 years ago in the elementary, and it was not received very well because we were so rigid with outlines and order and everything, but our kids don't think in outlines. Our kids don't go that way. I've had kids, I've done the bubble chart or whatever, the web on the board, and then take it from that to another board in outline form, and half the kids get the outline and the other half get the bubbles. And they can't tell you which, they just know one works better for them. So, experiment. Okay, if you can read that, it starts at the top, you go yes and no questions, and it kind of leads you to the path of the kind of graphic organizer you're wanting to use. Mm-hmm.
Inspiration, what's it called? Inspiration Maps or Inspiration Maps Lite?
I think it's just,
and one's $9.99.
I would do just the light until you see if you want to go any further. They're going to give you tons of templates, and those were the templates that I printed off.
So you did this one on the free one?
Yeah. I did the free one, and then I've actually used this in the 7th grade math class and then printed them, one per page, you know, no, one at the top, one at the bottom, 2 per page, and then cut them and have them glue them in their math journal. And they like it. It helped to re-emphasize what I had done on the board. Does that make sense? Okay, another thing I wanted to talk to you about. Yeah, that's what we were talking about. It's a little map to tell you how, if you can read it, how to go through and choose what graphic organizer to use. I'm not going to talk about each one of those. It's kind of hard to read. That's why I was going to redo it.
Circles are the types of organizers.
Yeah, the circles are the types of graphic organizers that you would want to choose based upon the type of information you are presenting.
So this is a trick.
A trick?
Tree?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
This and this.
Okay, I should run different types. Y'all don't, do you? How about I run an explanation page of those and put them in your boxes?
That'd be great.
With just a little mini one, so you can see what they look like. Did y'all hear that? I've got a breakdown list of types of graphic organizers you can build. They're just about that big, but then you can enlarge them. And then I'll put those in your mailbox. So you kind of at least see. And I learned to love them because I was an overhead teacher. And so when I got ready to present in math, I would do a sequence chart. I would box step 1, and then we would go through and talk about that. And then I would write, that's what you do for step 1. And then I'd put another box, step 2, and put what you do there. And just take them through those increments. And That's what graphic organizer will do for you, is break down the information so that it becomes visual and so that they can recreate it at home. You've given them something in their hands that they can pull out and redo at home. They're not going to get that from our math book. It's just not in there. Number one, they don't read their lessons in math, and that's a detriment. So we need to break it down for them. Okay, I know I'm going fast, but I want to let y'all work. I just really wanted to talk. I wanted to give you the last 30 minutes. But this is a book that I bought this summer. It's called Big Book of Math, and it's from Dinah Zikes or whatever. Has anybody heard of her? Zikes? She does a lot with foldables, and Amy has been doing these in junior high, and the kids love them. And this becomes a 3D graphic organizer for them. And so you're making something that can't be hands-on, hands-on. Now this one is for math, but the tricks of folding the pages and then having them glue them in a binder or glue them in a spiral or whatever makes it very user-friendly for the kids. So this one's for math. I've got another one that's for several different subjects. You're welcome to check these out and make your, a short layered whatever you want to make. This will work great in science. There's some for science too, and you might talk to Amy because she probably has one for science. That one's for math. Missy, you've used that some this year. What was your reaction?
They are really good as far as, I think just the activity itself and doing the activity puts it into, it's just doing something with their hands, making these, and I have them glue it in their notebooks. Mm-hmm. But they really like it, and they use it I tell them to use it for studying, and they do.
Right. One of the things that we have to realize about our student population is that there is a shift that has happened between our classes. Since the lower school started Foundations and Frameworks, they use graphic organizers every day in lower school now. They use them in reading every day. And so from first grade up, they are using these graphic organizers to take the stories apart and to take the material apart and make it visual. And so we kind of got to get on board, because that group, the first group that has used these, 9th grade, we played around, Susan and I played around a little bit with them a year ago, right? And then the upcoming 8th grade group has now had it 2 to 3 years. 7th graders coming in have had it 2 to 3 years. And so it's creeping up that they know how to do these. It's not something that we will have to teach them. It's something that we may have to get caught up on. And so I think we can do that. Now, if you've not done the Foundations and Frameworks training, I really can't tell you what's in there, because we had to sign an agreement to not do that because they want you all to take it. But I'm telling you, it works. It really makes a difference, especially in the elementary kids coming up, with their ability to take a piece of information apart and to put it into different slots to categorize it. So we can, begin to get on board with that. Okay? All right, the last thing I wanted to do is, the reason I wanted you to sit in teams and the reason I wanted you to bring Marcia Tate's book is because if you're like me, this thing's been in hiding for the last 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 9 weeks, 10 weeks, however long ago it was. And once the railroad started the train, we have not slowed down to look at this again. So I just thought, let's just take a time out. And I want you to go through, review, look at, there's things that maybe you're not comfortable with using in here. Not everybody is a humorist. Not everybody can get up and do the things that she did. But there is something that we can each do in here. So take it apart and talk about it with your subject matter. Is this something that will work in science? Is this something that will work in a foreign language? Is it, and come up with something, adapt it, change it, make it your own. Some of these say kindergarten through 12th grade. Well, that's just the springboard just springboard off of that and bring it up a notch. You know where your kids are and what they're capable of doing. So at least this is a starting point. So I'm going to give you the last 25 minutes to just sit, go through it, discuss, find some things that you can incorporate. If you brought your lesson plans, look at your lesson plan and see if there's anything in there that you could plug some of this into. If not this week, then down the road. Okay? All right. Your time. I'll go get that graphic organizer page and run them. Push one time.